Hi, this is Ren,
This is Casey.
and this is All Walks of Film. And today we are talking about the film that you probably wouldn't want to cosplay to. Oh, wait, that was the original. We're talking about Birth of a Nation.
No, it's funny that you said that because, as a costumer, I was frantically taking notes in my head of, the way that they made a lot of those costumes. I mean, I always do that with period pieces, but in particular, I'm just like, look at the cuffs on that one. Stupid shit. So it's funny that the first thing you said was, you don't want to cosplay this. I was like, actually, you did.
I was talking about the original silent film. Definitely don't want to cosplay that one.
No, definitely. I don't know where to start on this. Where do I start? Okay, you were seeing this for a second time, and you saw a different cut in the advanced screening. Because we saw this tonight's opening night when we're recording, but you saw an advanced screening that was different?
Yes, the advanced screener that I saw wasn't much different. There were extended scenes. There were some scenes that were taken out. It was funny while watching it. I was like, well, maybe I'm just remembering this wrong. And then it was like, no, because the film felt a lot more coherent, the one that I saw.
That makes sense, because just getting into the technical aspects of what I dislike about this film, because that's one of the only things I could talk about unbiasedly, and we'll get into that. Yeah, the pacing was so fast. Nothing, even the slow moments were very short. Everything was just move on to the next scene, move on to the next scene, move on to the next scene.
There were still pacing problems before.
Okay, well, there definitely seem to be a lot of pacing problems, and it's rated R, but don't expect anything resembling R-rated movie in terms of violence or gore, or anything close to I would say Django Unchained style, just cathartic, fuck yeah, kill the slavers sort of element to the movie, because it didn't have any of that.
Except if you saw the cut that I did.
No, but I'm saying in this theatrical cut, yeah.
Yeah, because the cut that I saw, I'm a strong advocate for free speech, but the cut that I saw as dangerous.
Well, I was interested in seeing that cut, because the cut I saw was fucking toothless. That's the one thing I kept thinking was, this is softcore, this is toothless, this is weak sauce. It's almost bland. It really is. Except for when it's infuriating. But, I mean, there were a couple people in the audience at 2 points in the entire film that were like, I did not agree with that.
So the film follows a man who led a slave rebellion, the most successful, if you want to call it that, successful slave rebellions in the South. He was a man who was inspired by God, though historians disagree with how successful he was, and also disagree with how divinely inspired he was, or just flat out crazy. One thing that the movie never explains is, how did Nat Turner ever learn how to read in the first place?
Yeah, because you can't learn to read by stealing one book one time and looking at it.
Yeah, that was something that I had an issue with. Also, the movie starts off developing a small relationship with Nat Turner and his would-be slave owner as kids. And while watching it at the very beginning, I was like, oh, interesting. This might be, a Prince of Egypt parallel. You might see
I got that for sure, because they were trying to make Nat Turner both Moses and Jesus, but there was definitely that point in the movie where it was Moses versus Ramesses.
Yeah, and one of the things that I would have liked...
Just not nearly as good as the animated movie.
Yeah, one of the things that I would have liked is for their relationship to have been a little bit stronger in the film, because it seems that if he was going to murder him, that the scene where he throws up, if you feel that there's a bond between them and then that happens, that seems to be a much more dramatic arc. And I feel that the director's catharsis was too strong to do something that artistically sound.
I actually think it might have been something else. I did like that throwing up scene, because it was the only time you saw any vulnerability in his character ever. It was the only time where you see any sort of flaw, any sort of, he did something really harsh, something really difficult. that was like one of the only moments that had like an actual emotional impact. But I think part of it was there was a difficulty in trying to balance out the story versus anything that seemed very realistic.
In what way?
In terms of like how close they could actually be. Like, there wasn't a lot from his childhood in the movie, so there wasn't a lot of time to have them play around as kids. And as they get older, there isn't really a chance to like show their development with each other, because by the time he's a grown-up, it's just slave owner and slave. I think that was more of where the balance in their relationship was kind of an issue.
It was also because he was an alcoholic. Though the movie never really gets into that, it's just shown.
I got the impression, but it was just an impression, I don't know if this is what the movie was trying to go for, but that he was a somewhat morally correct guy who was just too cowardly to stop any of the atrocities that he was looking at, and coped with that through drinking.
The movie did not convey that very well. And his name is Sam Turner, by the way. That's one of the interesting things that when you start looking at names of African American people, is they oftentimes took the family name of the slave owner, which
it's to show that they're your property. So then when you say my name is Nat Turner, they're like, oh, you're owned by Sam Turner.
It seems too familial to me.
I agree. Like, it seems really weird to us now, but I would think that that's kind of the thinking behind it. I'm not sure, but
different time, different understanding.
Well, there also wasn't. I'm not trying to sugarcoat or justify anything, but like, people don't really think that they're the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, slave owning is a shitty thing. Obviously, they don't think it's a shitty thing. They don't think of it as they're mistreating them. They're thinking of it as they're treating them the way that they ought to be treated. Which is fucked up, but this is the same sort of like, if you look at like people who abuse their pets, they have a very similar line of thinking. Or if they abuse their children, it's a similar line of thinking. It's just what they think they should be treating them like. So
I thought the white characters in the film were incredibly one-dimensional.
But everybody except for Nat Turner was incredibly one-dimensional, and he didn't have a lot going on for him either. Like, all the character development was really bad. There was not a single well-developed character besides Nat Turner.
One thing that...
And he was way too Jesus-y. Like, he was way too perfect.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the movie was less subtle than Zack Snyder, but
yeah, but 1 minute he's Moses, and then he graduated from being Moses to being Jesus. I mean, like, it was pretty blatant.
He is a preacher, so
he was
a
preacher, so a lot of that made sense. Yeah. And I was originally trying to like understand what the angle of this movie was, and I had one theory of where I thought it was going, and it didn't do that, and I was a little disappointed. But by midway, I was like, oh, I get it. This is a retelling of Moses and Ramesses. This is a retelling of that story from Exodus. Okay, this makes sense. That's really interesting. Cool.
Well,
but then as soon
as... That
is
what drove slaves, though. I mean, the whole parallel is what drove slave rebellions.
No, I know. And I thought him, like, really bringing that up towards the halfway point in the movie was really interesting. But then, like, as soon as that was really brought up, it was dropped again. Like, there wasn't a very consistent direction.
Also, you can't draw too many Moses parallels because that's Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, goddamn, why isn't there a Harriet Tubman movie yet? Really, I want to see a fucking Harriet Tubman movie. That shit would be fucking awesome. There's so many really great stories about her that aren't in freaking history books that would make an awesome movie. I want to see that movie.
All right, so getting more into the plot of the film, so Nat Turner, it's kind of odd to put it in these terms, but he was compared to other slaves, a well-treated slave in, a good plantation, but then he sees the atrocities of other people. Like, he didn't have scars on his back and all that stuff. And, you could argue that it might have been the incompetence. Like, if you're going with like a more racist angle, is the competence of the slave owner, et cetera, et cetera. But, he was a well-treated slave, and then he saw the atrocities of other slave owners, and that's what changed his mind. when doing research for this podcast, I found out that he was actually sold to another slave owner at one point, and he was actually treated better with one. And when he saw the atrocities with another slave owner, that was what caused him to shift. So the movie took away that fact about him, you know, like he was actually sold down the river, so to speak.
Right.
You know, it wasn't just that he saw other people, that he experienced that too. And I don't know if they cut that for time or whether I
think they probably cut it to make it a better, or they probably changed that in writing to make it a closer parallel to the Moses story. I would think that's how it feels from the cut I saw.
The movie does take a lot of artistic liberties.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most damning things I can say about the movie, because like this is a movie that is very derisive. It is made to trigger an emotion of a certain population. I do think that it is a thinly veiled allegory for Black Lives Matter.
See, I thought that originally, and I was cool with that. I was actually really interested in that. But after that very first scene at the beginning of the movie, I never got that from anything else in the movie. Because that scene where it's like his father is out in the street,
mm-hmm.
and he's just walking along down the street, and these fucking white guys on horses come up to him, and I'm like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Show us your pass. And he takes it out, and he has a pass, and they're like, we're gonna fucking kill you anyway just because you're a black person. I was like, shit, that makes a lot of sense. That is a brilliant idea. I'm super on board with this. After that scene, doesn't really come back to that idea again. I don't even know if that was done on purpose or by accident, to be honest.
Oh wait, this cut didn't have when he was driving Armie Hammer, Sam Turner, where they like straight up lynched this guy.
Yeah, they didn't have any lynching in this movie, so yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So they were originally gonna do more with that idea, and it was just cut out of the film.
Yeah, because it was this movie was cut severely. I will be interested. I would be interested for you to see the movie again. You know, like with an uncut version. Yeah, I don't know if this cut is going to come out.
Yeah. This
because
might be like a lost cut or something.
Yeah, because like it's weird because like.
But I keep telling you this. It's Hollywood is so against any film that's fuck society in any way, shape, or form. Because I was sitting there watching the movie and I was like, why the hell does this have an R rating? And knowing what you said about the original cut having more to do with like the Black Lives Matter movement or like having more of a parallel. Yeah, they would make it rated R.
Yeah, and I couldn't find that line that I was thinking of.
Yeah, they didn't even have it. Yeah, because they try so hard to limit releases, to push them to a rated R, to censor any sort of film. Like if you look at like Snowpiercer, if you look at Mad Max Fury Road, and now if you look at Birth of a Nation. Anything that's like fuck society, we need societal referendum, we need governmental reform, we want to go against the system. If you see any movie like that, there's some sort of attempt to make it harder to see it.
Because my take with this cut was a lot more negative than the original cut that I saw. Like I still had issues with the original cut because
this film was just so. It just came across as very weak sauce and very pretentious, which is a very difficult.
Well, the pretentiousness still was there. I mean, like all the flashback.
If you can back up your pretentiousness, it's not so bad. It really isn't. But you can't be weak sauce and pretentious. You got to do one or the other.
Like the vision of his wife as an angel was like, come on.
Was that his wife or his mother? I was very confused. I couldn't really tell who that was because it didn't look like anybody. It just looked like an angel.
I could have sworn that was his wife, but she was very silhouetted.
Yeah, like she was very shadowed on the face. You couldn't really make her face out, so I didn't really know.
Yeah, I could have sworn that was his wife, but like now you're making me think.
Sorry.
I kind of want you to get into it because I know it's.
I was. This is why it's hard for me to really take an unbiased view of this film, is because I was fucking livid. I was seething with rage. I was so fucking angry because I can't think of a film that didn't have fucking superheroes in it, and Transformers kind of superheroes. I can't think of a movie that didn't have superheroes in it that treated women this badly. I really can't. Because so much of, at least this cut, so much of the film, I would say roughly half of this film, and most of the hardships experienced, like, that he sees slaves experience, is women being raped. That's most of it. Now, they're very careful to not show you anything. So when his future wife is up on the podium and her dress gets stripped, the camera cuts away and you don't see anything because you can't be that degrading towards women.
I think that was a studio cut, especially with what the whole controversy is. I think that was cut.
Well,
because I heard that it was a brutal rape scene, and I think...
Well, that would have been with Esther. Or no, that would have been with Cherry. It's just that would have been the group scene, right?
Yeah, because the other one...
Okay, well, since I don't know, just basing it off of this cut that I'm seeing, most of the film is every woman has to get raped or die. That is the purpose of every female in the film.
Except for...
that one little girl who was led on a leash. That was about it.
Yeah, but also Sam Turner's mom.
Sam Turner's mom, who's barely in the film, but okay.
Who taught him how to read.
No, she didn't, because she didn't know how to read, I don't think she could have taught him. It's not in the film, at least.
Sam Turner, the white woman.
Oh, God.
Sam Turner's mom.
You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry, the names. I got confused. Yeah, Sam Turner's mom is in that. Yeah, because she taught him how to read, and she taught him the Bible and all that stuff.
Yeah, that was a line when I saw it with the pre-screener. Everybody was like, "Fuck you," when she said, "Oh, you can't read these books. These are for white people."
Because you wouldn't understand. Yeah, that was fucked up.
But here you have the best book in the world.
Yeah, that was dumb. But I mean, I get the point of it being in the movie. I'm not saying like the movie was dumb for including it, but like, yeah, fuck that.
Well, I think the movie is trying to imply that too.
Yeah.
The movie kind of shits on religion a lot. I don't feel that Nat Turner has any conviction with his religion in the movie. I just see him using religion as a tool to
yeah, but I'm okay with that.
Extend his cause. I think that's interesting, but I don't think that's accurate to the actual character of Nat Turner.
Well, honestly, regardless of whether it is or not, because let's be fair,
we don't know.
No. To be fair, we're willing to give movies slack for not being historically accurate if they tell a good story. We do it all the fucking time. Like, let's not even kid ourselves and be like,
Social Network.
Yeah, like, let's not even kid ourselves and be like, oh, it has to be historically accurate or else it's not. No, we'll cut slack to movies as long as they tell a good story. My problem is that just like with almost every other aspect in the film, it doesn't go far enough in either direction. It doesn't go far enough in the direction of him actually being religious or far enough in the direction of him using religion as a tool for his revolution.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting...
in the middle, muddy, maybe one or the other.
I think that now it's one of those things because, you know, I swear that the cut that I saw like had more, but I can't think of anything specific. So, you know, maybe I was more attuned to it, or I don't know. But I did feel that there was this moment where Nat Turner kind of looked at the audience, you know, at one point. Didn't have
that moment.
Yeah, because I'm sorry that like I'm referring to little bits, because there were parts in the cut that I saw where it did seem like the director was giving the audience a wink and a nod to, hey, we're talking about police brutality. We're talking about shit that's going on right now.
I mean, that was a big part of the problem with this, is like, it does feel like it's been neutered because there doesn't seem to be a direction or a clear message. And if you're gonna do something as fucking gutsy as call your movie The Birth of a Nation, you better have a clear ass fucking message in your movie. And that's
the message was clear the first time I fucking saw it.
Well, that would make more sense to me, and honestly, I'd probably like the movie more, or at least respect it more.
Yeah, I mean, the message that I got in the first one was that all white people are to blame.
I mean, that message was still in this movie, too.
Well, yeah, but it was honestly, hammered down.
That's not my problem with the movie, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
To be honest. So, did you want me to go into this?
Yeah.
Okay, because you just, came in with this whole other thing. Okay, here's my problem. Because I know the very first thing that, anyone who would disagree with me about this would say, oh, so you're fine with Irreversible? Oh, you're fine with Game of Thrones? But, this is where, it's too much rape. It's too much rape of women. Here's the reason why. In Irreversible, it's horrifying. And it's really awful to watch. It's, almost physically uncomfortable to watch Irreversible. As it should be. I completely approve of that scene. Game of Thrones, the women are, one woman is raped, one woman has a very sexually ambiguous encounter, I would say.
Are you talking about the Joffrey thing?
No, I'm talking about the Cersei's thing.
Okay, yeah.
In Game of Thrones, A, I didn't mind the way that the rape was handled, and B, shitty things happen to everybody. That will include rape. That will also include a lot of shitty things happening to men, too. And in this movie, there was very, very little that was shitty that happened to men. Most of the shittiness that he witnessed that spurred his revolution was women being raped. And I was frustrated with this for a couple of different reasons. One, I didn't think that I was not okay with the fact that he was using the rape of women as, part of the altar of his own fucking vanity project. Because with this cut of the film, all it feels like is a fucking vanity project. It really does. Which is part of the reason why I think it's pretentious as hell.
Oh, it still felt pretentious, I'm with sure. The cut that I saw.
I'm sure, yeah, writer, director.
And I saw this cut, but it's in my memory, right?
It really was a vanity project, and I didn't think that was acceptable.
It's a first-time director.
Oh, okay. Well,
first-time actor, first-time director.
Two, the women had nothing else to offer. They really didn't, because there was something that was really bothering me. The scene where Cherry Ann is being auctioned off, and you're supposed to be horrified because, she's this woman, she's only 18, and this slave dealer is selling her off specifically so she can get raped by all these horny men with their big erections. And, Nat Turner wants to save her from that fate. Not for any better reason. She's a hot chick he wants to fuck. Now, he is more he's more morally superior because he doesn't want to rape her. He wants to marry her and have sex with her, the more conventional way. But that is his entire driving force behind his relationship with her is, oh wow, she's hot. I want to go fuck her, so I'm going to go make that happen, and he does, and that's his relationship with her. And then even when she's raped, which, yeah, it was really shitty to me that both when she was, when she was stripped and when she was raped, it was comfortable. It was comfortable to watch it because we didn't see or deal with anything. We didn't deal with any of that fucking hardship. That I thought was upsetting. But more so than that was the aftermath of it where you just see her in bed and, oh no, her pretty face. Her pretty face is ugly now.
That was horrifying the first time I saw it because, even though we didn't get the rape scene, we did get a scene that was very evocative of Emmett Till.
But my problem is that that's all she has to offer to the film. And even when she's raped, that is what we see as her hardship, is she doesn't have her pretty face. Yeah, it was definitely really good makeup work. And yeah, that definitely was one of the only times that there was a real from the audience in the film. But that was her role to play in the movie.
And for those of you who don't know, Emmett Till was a young black boy who flirted with a white woman and then was beaten to death by white men and then thrown into the river. And the white men got off free, and the mother and the family were so pissed about just the absolute complacency of the legal system that they had an open casket at his funeral.
The other thing was I could also see that scene coming from a mile away. The second I was like, oh, she's out in the woods in a pretty white dress. She's about to be raped, isn't she? Yes, that's what's happening right now. Okay.
So we're just going to use corn to represent
the corn husk. Yeah.
Which I gotta say, one of the things that I find especially troubling is, I don't know as far as historical context that her name was this, but what is her name?
Her name is Madeline, because she had her real name and then she went by Cherry Ann.
I want you to think about that name for a second.
Madeline?
No, the
Cherry
other name.
Ann?
Shorten it.
Cherry.
Now think about that for a second.
No, believe me, the second that I heard that her first name was Cherry, I was like, she's a sex object in the movie. She's gonna get raped, isn't she? And lo and behold, that's exactly what fucking happened. And then, moving on from that, there's Esther, who is brought into the film only to be raped. That is her entire purpose. And the actress said that she made a specific decision to not have her say anything, but the decision to have her be raped is a conversation between 4 men in which she is not present and she is not consulted, and we don't really deal with her at all. Then she has her rape scene where, again, very comfortable. We don't have to deal with anything. We don't have to deal with anything at all except for how bad the men feel about it and how horrified they are.
That's an issue that I can definitely agree with you on. The fact that all the women are robbed of their experience of rape. It's only about the men.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, all 4 of the women in the movie are just emotional support for the men. The men feel bad, and the women are like, oh, well, I love you and support you no matter what. Oh, I'm proud of you. That's not a character, especially when all 4 of them are interchangeable with the way that they're written. And here's what really upset me at the end of the day. I don't know a lot about the whole rape allegation thing. I don't have an opinion about it, about whether it's true, whether it's false. I don't fucking know. I don't know a lot of facts about it. But this film felt so desperately like a man trying to say, no, I understand the plights of raped women and women who fear being raped. I get it. See, I'm going to talk so much about this, and this is going to be the centerpiece of what sparks the revolution in my movie, and yet he has like no capacity to illustrate how horrific it is, to show it from a women's perspective. There's no real understanding at work, but it's something that he just has to revisit over and over and over and over again in the movie, because there were 3 women raped? Was there more? There was at least 3, because there was at least Cherry Ann, there was Esther, there was the little girl, she was like 12 maybe, she was a child.
Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Yeah, but then there was also the auctioning scene where there was all the talk about the raping of women too. And they spend so much more time and so many more like subplots on women being raped than men being sexually abused, which was definitely a thing that was happening during that time. They spent more time on that than the most iconic thing you could show, whipping. They only show that twice in the entire film. And once very, very briefly. There's only one scene of
there's no shot
torture.
of the back either.
Yeah, no, there's a shot of him being stitched up.
Stitched up, but
not like the actual it happening. Yeah, it's very much cut away. There's one scene of torture. So even when I put all of those scenes together, it's still not nearly as much as when they were talking about women being raped. And yet you couldn't take the time to like develop them any as like fucking human beings. You couldn't take the time to actually make that upsetting. You couldn't like find it in yourself to like show part of the story from anyone else's perspective. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like this, I was more forgiving of The Revenant because at least it only happened once. At least it happened like one time. It was a short scene. You had more to your movie than that. This was like seriously, there was more of this shit than the fucking revolution at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and one thing that I have to mention is one of the things that the movie also shied away from as far as like historical context was that women also fought in Nat Turner's rebellion. We can't have
them do that either. And his wife, who stayed with him all of his life. No, his wife has to stay at home with the kid, and his mom has to take care of her, and we need the women to stay safe and put away. They can't be part of the rebellion. They can come to church, but, they're not going to fight with us or anything.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that
If you're
bullshit?
going to make the movie like that, it seems like the women have even more context to be in the rebellion than the men do.
Exactly. This is they're trotted out for the sake of being sacrificed on the altar of his fucking vanity project to be fuel for his revenge, so the men can go out and do this work, but the women all have to be the exact same cookie cutter, really soft-spoken, polite, supportive, sweet, we can't possibly defend ourselves. It's garbage. It's fucking bullshit.
One of the things that I mentioned to somebody one of the things that I mentioned after I saw the movie at the screening to a person that I had met was, can you name any male slave revolter in the film besides Nat Turner? And they were like, oh, I can't.
Jasper was Judas.
Okay.
You get it? Jasper, Judas.
Okay, well, but...
And I know that another guy was introduced, but I can't remember what his name was, and he was only in one shot, so I don't know what his name was.
But I just thought that was another issue with the film, that not buddy, even the other... Yeah,
like his buddy Esther's husband, I don't even know what his name was.
Yeah, we don't know his deal. We don't really know anything about any other character. And that's okay. I mean, like, sometimes movies do that, but like one of the things that I found frustrating, because, while I don't want to speak for Black people, because I am not a Black person, one thing that I do know based on the Black literature that I've seen is, unlike white literature, it is about the collective, not the individual. One thing I've noticed recently about Black art is it's more about the individual than it is about the collective. And I think that's something that is actually hurting the art. Granted, it's their art. They can choose to do what they want. But it does seem that the film loses the collective experience by, making it pretty much only about Nat Turner's experience.
Right.
And not just, this is one of those things where every once in a while I think that people that are trying to make films sometimes should analyze other films. You could have had like a Schindler's List scene. And I know they tried to do that with the girl with the noose around her neck and they're playing and everything like that. But so many scenes in the movie like that are trying to draw allusions to things that people within the African American community know. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that, like, while watching the movie, it will hint at certain things and be like, hey, I'm talking to you. You know what I'm talking about. And that's kind of how the language of the film is. Now, it's not explicitly saying it, but there are allusions to...
the allusions are so obvious. I don't think it is this sort of, hey, you know what I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure everyone in the audience is like, oh, I get it.
Well, yeah, but...
I don't think that it's lost on anybody.
Well, the film has the subtlety of, slamming...
to the head.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Which you don't get the satisfaction of seeing in this movie, or at least in this cut.
Yeah, I will definitely tell you that the cut that I saw was graphic.
I probably would respect that cut a lot more. I really probably would, even though the female thing would also bother the hell out of me. At least it might have a separate message that I could
the female thing was cut too, but I think they cut it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were just afraid for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
This film was released in festivals at Sundance like a while back.
So that's probably the cut this cut they screened was probably the advanced cut.
No, I think that was I think there are 3 cuts.
Wow. That's disappointing.
That happens sometimes.
I know, but it sucks when that happens. I don't like it.
Yeah, it happens with especially with movies that have what people might see as very dangerous messages.
oh, can't have that, we gotta censor it. I mean, that's bullshit.
Even if you go onto Amazon and buy an uncut version of Serbian film, I gotta tell you something. It's cut.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's bullshit because I don't care if I agree with it or not. I don't care if I think it's dangerous or upsetting or whatever. I don't care if I think, like, oh, you're wrong. You have the right to release whatever the fuck you want. You have a right to make your artistic statement and make the film you want to make.
Well, it's the studios that come in and say...
fucking studio bureaucracy bullshit. Okay, to be somewhat polite to the film, there was one thing that I really liked. But my issue with this one thing that I really liked is the issue that I had with the entire movie. I thought that the Nina Simone Strange Fruit montage was almost perfect. Like, I thought that was really great until the very last shot, which was this really amazing shot of, like, the butterfly on the dead boy's chest, and you see him hanging from the tree, and you expand out, and you see all the people. And I was gonna say that was the most upsetting part of the film, and that was, like, the closest to being uncomfortable and, like, distraught that I got, except for the song. They have it overlapping with this lyrics about giant bulging eyes and twisted mouths and, like, a very graphic description of what a hangman would look like. That was very absent in the shot that we got, where everybody had closed eyes and, like, sleepy faces, and I was just like, you're not taking it far enough. You're not doing enough with it. Like, you're not going anywhere. You're not making a statement. You're not doing anything new. Let's be honest, there's something new in this movie.
No, I mean, it does definitely feel like a Cliff Notes version of, hey, you know all those movies and things that you've seen about slavery? Well, we're just going to go through the motions with that. Like, practically the introduction, Nat Turner, outside of the African dream sequence, actually, or whatever that was.
I do want to say that is the only thing that was added that I actually thought was a really interesting touch. Was I've never seen a slave film that had African culture in it, because in the film, his parents were brought over from Africa, so there's still that very strong cultural connection that he was able to get. But in pretty much all the films that I see, it's very Americanized culturally. That was the one thing that was really interesting, but again, just like everything else that I kind of liked in the movie, they didn't do enough with it. That was like, what, maybe 3 scenes? They didn't go far enough with it in any given direction.
I can see that point. But what I was going to say was Nat Turner's character is introduced with cotton before anything.
Oh, the scene where he grows up, that montage. Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, but also, like, in the scene where he's with his family and stuff, like, you see the cotton before anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's always the cut to the cotton, which, yes, well, cotton was a primary thing, and, like, it's notorious for, you know, whenever you talk about slavery, I mean, there was more than just cotton picking. Yet
tobacco growing was another big one.
Right, but I gotta say that I have yet to see a film that ever shows slaves doing anything other than picking cotton. Like, sometimes building a house, you know, sometimes building things, they'll be like,
but like some manual labor. But the main thing is,
I get that was a primary resource.
Personal flavor in any, like, when you do that in every movie, you're not making it personable. You're just making it, this is what we've seen before. This is what we've seen before.
I get the want to show cotton because, you know, cotton's hard and, you know, it has you can prick your fingers and it's backbreaking work. You know, it's a very simple way to show.
But they showed it on other plantations. I feel like that's enough. You know, if you wanted to have him have, you know, his plantation be different in some way, and especially because, like, it was really weird because they were talking about, like, how everyone was broke and, like, they couldn't even break even. But because
it wasn't conveyed very well.
It wasn't conveyed very well because they were like, oh, because of the drought, you know, we're having a hard time breaking even. But you see, like, these huge fucking fields of tons and tons of cotton. You don't ever see, like, cotton crops going bad. So there's not really a reason to think that he is going into debt or that he's going to lose his farm, like...
Yeah, whereas in 12 Years a Slave, Michael Fassbender's character is somebody who's financially struggling, and you see it in the film, which, I hate to draw that parallel, but it has to be drawn because it's a recent film talking about slavery.
Well, that was also just on every level a better made film.
Yeah, even though the context and story was dramatically different, there is that parallel to be made. I'm sure some people are going to compare this to Django Unchained as well.
But it doesn't go nearly as far as that film ever could.
It's hard to make an argument because of this,
for me,
this disconnect that we have.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, the only real comparison that I have for Birth of a Nation and Django Unchained is they both have boring-ass, underdeveloped fucking wives. That's about all they have in common. I mean, like, Nat Turner is not even a particularly developed character, but he's more developed than anyone else, I guess. I was really disappointed to see this cut. It just wasn't engaging. It wasn't evocative. It wasn't interesting or upsetting. It didn't push me or pull me in any given direction. It didn't... Honestly, I wasn't thinking about, like, how often I had seen stuff like this until I was watching this movie. Like, I didn't go into this thinking, like, oh my god, I'm so sick of seeing slave movies. I don't want to see this movie. But I was sitting there thinking, like, just going like, okay, well, we're going down the checklist now, because that's about how boring it was in this cut.
I get what you're saying, because, like, slave movies. There's a scene where they're picking cotton. There's a scene where somebody gets whipped. There's usually at least one kind master that isn't that bad.
Hashtag not all white slavers.
Yeah, that's horrible, but yeah.
Well, that's the trope in the film, so it's like, oh, well, just so, you don't say that we're being racist to all white people, here's one nice white person.
Yeah, he's the first person that Nat Turner kills.
No, the mom. Sam Turner's mom is the nice one.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about...
No, Sam Turner. Is the coward who doesn't have enough of a backbone to stand up for what he believes in. Which was kind of interesting if they did anything with it. But, I mean, like, that's just the thing is, like, in this edit at least, they just started so many ideas and then just dropped them and didn't do anything with them at all.
This movie, like, even the version that I saw, and, granted, there were minor differences, but, like, not a whole lot. It just feels that either the movie was chopped to bits.
Which it probably was.
Which I'm always willing to give a movie a second go around if a movie is edited that much.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% watch an extended cut of this. And I would be hopeful that it would be a better movie. I really would. But I can only speak for the cut that I saw.
Yeah, and that's been an interesting thing this year. I mean, we had that with Ghostbusters. We had that with Batman v Superman. We had that with Suicide Squad.
To be fair, I have absolutely no desire whatsoever to see an extended version of Ghostbusters or Batman v Superman. And while I'm sure an extended version of Suicide Squad would be better-ish in comparison, I have no faith that it's really going to be any more of a good movie.
Yeah.
Birth of a Nation, I think, probably would be a good movie if it was... Well... I think that it could be a substantially stronger film, if nothing else.
I would say at least the first take that I had on the film was a lot stronger than this time, but there were weird cuts, like quick cuts this time that I did not see.
Felt really chopped. I mean, within maybe the first 10 minutes of the film, I was wondering if we were seeing a shortened edit because everything was so quick paced.
Those parts, yeah, but when it came, those parts were the same. But when it came to the violence, it felt like a lot of things were.
Well, the other thing too is that like that might have adjusted the editing in the entire film, so then it didn't feel out of place later. They sort of adjusted the editing style for the whole film to make it feel consistent.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard for me to like really judge because I can only judge what I saw.
Yeah.
But I would have faith in an extended cut. I really would. I feel like you can't make a film like this, call it the birth of a nation, like be that outright like I've got my cock out, like that confident in a film.
Yeah, because Birth of a Nation is one of the most evocative films ever made. It is the first movie.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's what's caused so much intrigue into the movie was just the title. I don't know how you have that much confidence in a movie that makes no statement.
Well, especially when you have posters that literally have spray painted Nat Turner was here or something like that.
Yeah.
Of the original Birth of a Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to what you said about like this film encouraging.
Well, wait a minute. You've seen the original more recently than I have. I saw it about 3 years ago, and you saw it a couple months ago. Did you see any like really strong parallels between the two?
Strong parallels, I would say that the arrival of the KKK and Nat Turner's Last Stand were paralleled. Like, those shots were similar.
Yeah, I agree. But, I mean, other than that, I can't think of very much that was similar between the two.
I guess another parallel you could have is the fact that a white woman jumped off a cliff so she wouldn't get raped by a black guy. You don't remember this scene?
No, I remember that scene. I'm trying to place that in this new movie.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, the inclusion of, like, rape as a motivator.
Oh, I see. I mean, but there was
and that's the most common scene shown of Birth of a Nation.
I don't see that in the new one at all. Because, like, even the way that it was handled, or even, like, the motivation is not similar in any way.
Well, I would also say that the white slave owners were about as one-dimensional as the black people in the original as well.
See, I thought that's what it was going to be, and it doesn't work when everybody's one-dimensional.
Yeah, I agree. I mean...
like, that's my issue. It's like, yeah, they were as one-dimensional
well, I mean,
as
like,
the black people in that, but, like, everyone was.
I mean, like, mustache-twirling villains. Like, especially Jackie Earle Haley. Like, he was just a character that, like, he was just an image of... He didn't even feel like he had any conviction. He just felt like, hey, we're going to make the most generic fucking racist person. Granted, I guarantee people like this existed. It's one of those things that it's not interesting to see it in film. Having characters with motivations and conflict makes it more interesting. Like if you showed him, playing with a little black kid and then his confrontation with Nat Turner, that could have created an interesting parallel where you're like, wait, I thought he was nice, and then he's a total asshole. Mm-hmm. Like, it felt like the movie was too...
Well, that would also be interesting because it would kind of give an implication that he's probably that kid's dad. But yeah, it felt very, very shallow. And I hope that an extended cut had more of a purpose than this, I guess. Because right now it's kind of like a much... It really kind of feels like The Revenant without all of the, artistic quality to it.
Well, there was film definitely is very some artistically limited.
No, this film had like some artistic stuff to it. Like there was this shot of the cotton fields that I really liked what they did, where they changed the focus from one row to the next row to the next row to the next row to the whole field, where it kind of gave like this really nice impression of like the work just never ends. Mm-hmm. Like, there was some artistic quality like that. But, like, in The Revenant, it is an artistic opus. Which is why so many people take a little while. Like, I was definitely like this, where it kind of took me a while to be like, wow, this story is garbage. You did nothing here. This is kind of like a piece of shit story, but you made it really well. And this film feels like it has about that much content to it. Just without all the pizzazz to sort of, like... obfuscated in the moment.
Yeah, and going in a different direction, I think you could have made a film about, this divinely inspired preacher, having this message that he is the angel of death. Now, I think that could have been...
That could have been really interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
I would watch that movie. I would watch the shit out of that movie.
There are some really interesting ideas that this movie evokes.
Yeah.
And I almost would say that it would be interesting to see another take on this character.
Yeah.
It might work better as a TV show.
Yeah. I would watch the shit out of that TV show. Yeah. At the end of the day, I feel like this film just proves that no matter the content, if you don't have good characters, and if you don't have a good story, your movie's not going to work.
Yeah, and
it doesn't matter what you make it about.
I went into this film wanting to love it. I went into this film wanting it to be the fuck you to the original Birth of a Nation.
Well, yeah.
But you gotta be a lot ballsier than that. Mm-hmm. You gotta be, I mean, even the cut that I saw, like...
To be fair, we have a very different standard than most people.
Right.
Like, we have a much higher threshold of what we're willing to accept from films. But I really think what matters more is the statement, not the gore effect. I think that that's more important.
Right.
And this film was this was not this was not a strong character with an axe in one hand and a megaphone in the other, like, proclaiming. This was I'm gonna sit in the corner and tell my story, It felt very like an awkward, subdued film. And it was probably the cut. Even the cut you saw might have been edited. I don't know at this point. Like, at this point, since I haven't heard anything about editing, but there clearly was editing.
Every once in a while, I am crazy and remember things differently.
That's true, but, like, you just saw this.
Yeah, and, like, the first time I saw it, I mean, like, I was talking to you, like, all the time, I was just like, this and this, and...
Yeah.
And then you're just like, milk toast.
Yeah. I'm just like, weak sauce. Toothless. Yeah. And I do keep saying toothless on purpose.
Yeah, so let's talk about that toothless scene. Because, like, for many people, they saw it as... that was the shocking scene in the movie where the guy gets his teeth knocked out. It seemed pointless to me, really in a logistical standpoint. It's one of those things where it's like, did you just want to punish him? Did you want to...
it is a thing to force him to eat because he can't clamp his teeth down to keep the food from getting in his throat.
Yeah,
they,
but
literally built a hole in his face.
Here's the thing. Like, I get what you're saying, but, like, within the scene, they don't keep it down long enough for him to actually, like, swallow the stuff.
Well, yeah, and especially because his mouth was still full of teeth.
His mouth was still full of teeth, so from my take on it, and maybe this is what the filmmaker wanted to do, from my take on it, he still didn't eat. He threw it up, and his teeth came out, too. So, like, that whole thing was just... And that's oversimple.
Well, that's also a good way to describe that scene, too. Because, like, I felt nothing from that scene at all. And it didn't really make an impact on the story at all. It was not...
Well, it was more about his interaction with the guy in the scar on his face.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it definitely had a lot more to do with that than anything else. And that was fine. It's just, like... For it being like, this is the worst that we could possibly offer in the film, it wasn't that bad.
It would have been nice if he had talked in the movie. Oh, wait, he did talk. Never mind, sorry.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like, you don't have to talk to have good character development, but also you don't necessarily need character development either, because, like...
It would have been nice to see more characters have agency in this movie, though. Because it just...
Well, because that's the entire point of the film is revolution, and yet you had everybody be complacent to Nat Turner. You had everyone just stand around and be like, oh, well, we support you and we're proud of you.
Except the mulatto guy. The mulatto guy was the only character that was outside of Nat Turner. He was like the only character that, I mean, like, I would say that he was more, maybe not more interesting, but he was definitely a very interesting character because, like...
You could actually see where he was coming from?
Yeah, because, like, at several points you thought, this guy is going to rat him out.
Yeah, he didn't, but he was so terrified. Yeah.
And, as a parallel to Sam Jackson's character in Django Unchained, like, you thought he was going to be like this Uncle Tom character that was just going to, like, rat him out. And he was just worried for everybody. So I definitely would have liked to have seen more with his character as well. It's just like, this film was less than 2 hours or 2 hours, like, right on the nose.
It was less than 2 hours.
Okay, so when I was watching the original Birth of a Nation, it was just scraping on...
Right. And how do you make a response to that in, like, less than half the time? But, I mean, it didn't feel like a response to that in any way. Like, I really don't see what the connection is. I really don't.
The connection is pure irony.
I was kind of bored when I wasn't just fuming.
Yeah, because the women thing really had you pissed.
It really had me pissed because it came from a place of complete lack of understanding.
Yeah, well, It also felt like Women in the Refrigerator.
It was.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, if you want a good example of like, oh, what does sexism look like? It's essentially not giving your female characters agency in like anything, and like, they're purely put there to either ogle at or be the cause for.
Well, here's the thing, is that you could literally put his wife, his mother, his grandmother, and Esther in any of the roles at any given time. You could have them all say any of the things, and it would be the exact same effect in the movie. All of them are written exactly the same way, except for Esther, who doesn't talk. But like, that could have easily been his mother, his grandmother.
Yeah, you could have just shorthanded them and just made it into one character.
Yeah, you really could have. It would have been that easy, because they have that much in common and that little apart.
I will say that it like really bums me out that a movie trying to be this evocative is
Wah, wah.
I mean, it's also frustrating that it appears that, I saw a different cut than you. So let us know what you thought of The Birth of a Nation, not the 1917 one.
Let us know what you thought of that too.
Yeah. Don't go cosplaying the original film to this film. I'm sure you would have some problems, to say the least. Really, if you dressed up as any character.
You can apparently do it if you're the dog from The Artist. That was a Key and Peele sketch. They had a Key and Peele sketch where they're walking in the park and this lady has a Jack Russell Terrier who just barks at them, and she's like, "Oh, no, my dog's not racist." And they're like, "Well, yeah, we were pretty sure that your dog wasn't racist." And they cut to it, and he's like, the dog is like at the head of a KKK meeting with this big Klan hat on his head, and he's barking, and they have it subtitled. It's like, white power. And there's the big bonfire behind.
Oh my god, that's great.
So apparently you could get away with that if you're a very cute dog. That's about it.
Yeah, but the story was told. That was why you didn't teach slaves to read, was because of that.
It was just really weird the way that it was framed in the film.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm going to chalk it up to first-time director. I'm going to chalk it up to...
hopefully a really shitty edit.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I can watch Birth of the Nation how it was supposed to be seen, not how Hollywood was like, oh shit, we don't want riots in theaters.
We can't let people watch this, so never mind.
Now, when I saw it at my screening, people were hooting and hollering when every single white person got murdered.
Well, in this one, there was no satisfaction from it, because it was all very anticlimactic.
The cut that I did see did have graphic violence.
Well, the other thing, too, was in this cut, the pedophilia thing was a twist, because you didn't know that. Like, you didn't know that guy, he was fucking slaves at all, and B, you definitely didn't know that he was having sex with a 13-year-old girl. I mean, I'm guesstimating that's how old she was, but...
No, I mean, that still was in the original.
No, I know that was in the original, but in this cut, you had no idea until, like, I thought that they were, like, he was gonna go over and kill his wife, and then his quote-unquote wife is, like, a little girl. They
also very carefully cut away from the fact that during the Nat Turner Rebellion, they, like in the Bible quote that you saw that they put on the screen, they killed kids too, and babies.
Oh yeah, they didn't show any of that in this movie. I mean, like, yeah, I was looking at that, I was like, oh shit's about to get real, because it says man, woman, child, oxen, sheep, and I don't remember the last one.
And babe or something like that.
No, there's a last. I said men, women, babies, oxen, sheep, probably cattle.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, you could have even done that off camera.
Yeah, you could have had any sort of implication. Didn't have any of that at all. I don't know. I really don't know what to think of this movie, but I'm left very dissatisfied, I guess.
Well, I think that might have diminished his message in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be a lot. I mean, that would be morally objectionable And
there was once one of the houses that they went to had a woman answer the door and they barged in. So they might have killed one chick.
All right, let us know in the comments below what you thought of the film, and
let us know if you think that we're out of our fucking minds. Because it was kind of weird to walk out of the film and feel this way about it. I wasn't expecting that. I'm kind of hoping, maybe, somebody can tell me why this is actually a much better movie than I think it is. Maybe I just don't get it.
I would love to have a conversation with somebody. So, if you want to come onto the podcast and defend this film, I would love to have a conversation with you on it.
And a conversation. We're not the kind of people who are no, fuck you. No.
Yeah, no.
An actual
and I would expect the same from you.
Yeah. I mean, I might say that to you personally, but that's because we're buds, so, I say fuck you to you all the time.
All right, thanks for listening.